Hello again, everyone. Thank you for coming. Next company is Midnight Sun Mining. Speaker is Adrian O'Brien, Vice President of Communications and Corporate Development. Midnight Sun Mining is traded on the TSXV under the ticker MMA.V and on the OTC under the ticker MDNGF.
This is Midnight Sun. Of course, we are working in the Zambian Copperbelt. So this is pretty well the top spot on the planet right now for copper exploration. Super interesting place to be. There's a lot going on. I'm going to try and cover all of it for you in about 20 minutes today. So we'll try and pack in everything we can and leave lots of room for questions. But I want to really attack this from a thematic standpoint. So right off the bat, let's cover a few key points about this project that you're going to want to hold on to as you look at this through the lens I'm going to present it in. Right off the top global hotspot for copper today. There is only one place on the planet that breeds billion-ton deposits as an average that are stratabound, meaning they are shallow and high grade, and that is the Zambia Copperbelt. So we are located right smack in the middle of the belt. We've been there for 14 years. It is your typical 13-year overnight success story. We are at the critical juncture now where we're moving these projects from early discovery into development. So this is the most exciting phase the company's ever had. When you look at the area I'm going to show you on a map in a moment, you'll notice we're completely surrounded by majors. Every big player in the copper space is in this belt. We are quite literally surrounded by the 5 biggest copper mines in Africa. And when you're looking at Midnight Sun's project, there's 2 different ways to look at it, and there's 2 different attack plans that are underway. One is for large sulfide targets. So when we're talking about sulfide deposits or stratabound deposits, these are the billion-ton deposits that the Domes region is known for. Secondarily, we have oxide copper on our property. And of course, the oxide copper is the very surface portion of a sulfide deposit that's been oxidized and weathered. We've got a lot of that on our property, and we're working to get that into production in conjunction under a technical alliance that we call a cooperative exploration plan with First Quantum. Their Kansanshi mine, which is their flagship, is just 6 kilometers away from us to the east, and Barrick's flagship Lumwana mine is only about 20 kilometers west. So we do have certainly the right players around us. And when you're looking at the geological setting, I mentioned already, this is unique. This is a global hotspot because of the size and scale of the deposits that this area breeds. But we are right in the thick of it. And we cover some of the most prospective ground and have actually the best target for exploration in Zambia right now, which is called Dumbwa. So as we move forward, I'm going to show you all of these things hand in hand. But keep in mind, timing is everything here. And what you're seeing in the copper space right now is the absolute precipice of a large disconnect between new projects that are in the development pipeline, new projects coming on stream, and this major global copper deficit that is expected to hit within the next decade. And if the projections are correct, it's going to be very significant. And right now, there is no answer to how that'll be solved, but we're hoping to do it here in Zambia. So a quick snapshot on Zambia for anybody that's never been there, that's never seen the district before, isn't familiar. You're looking at an area that 75% of their export earnings are copper. It is completely mining centric. Of course, it is a very easy jurisdiction with a long history of mining, over 100 years as being a major powerhouse in the global mining sector. But if you look at Zambia from a global output circumstance, they are at about number 7 or 8 in the world right now for global copper output. And their president, HH, has come in with a plan to move them to number 2 or 3 in the world. And so that plays a big part in what's happening around us, and hopefully Midnight Sun plays a big part in that as well. So let me give you a snapshot of what the actual district looks like. And what you're seeing here is a view of both the DRC, which is north of us, and Zambia itself, and the Zambia Copperbelt straddles that border. So if you're on the DRC side, you can expect to give up a vast percentage of your property simply to move it forward, and jurisdictional risk beyond what most of us are willing to deal with. Down south in Zambia, very easy jurisdiction, 100% mining friendly, democratically elected government in place, proper mining act in place, and we own 100% of our projects with no royalties or encumbrances. So that is the kind of area where you want to be working. What you see here, of course, the Zambia Copperbelt on the right-hand side of the screen, and then this area with all the bubbles in the middle, that is the Domes region. It's about 200 kilometers wide, meaning east to west, and about 200 kilometers north to south. And all of those projects, with exception of Tenke, every project you see in front of you is over 1 billion tons. In most jurisdictions, that is the outlier. That's the rarity to find a 1 billion ton deposit. In the Domes region, it's the average. So these are very large deposits and a very special jurisdiction for that reason. So you see, of course, Barrick's Lumwana mine, 1.62 billion tons at 0.52. I'm going to expand on that in a moment. First Quantum Sentinel mine, 1 billion tons at 0.51. Ivanhoe's Kamoa-Kakula, an absolute monster, 1.4 billion at 3% copper. And of course, Kansanshi, First Quantum's flagship, they're right next door to us, and that's 1 billion tons at 0.66. Now, what you don't see on this map are all the players that are here that are looking for copper projects they can put into production. These are just the producers. You would see, if I had all the names on there, Anglo American, Glencore, BHP, Freeport-McMoRan, and of course, Ivanhoe just cut a deal for 8,000 square kilometers of land inside Zambia, and they're now focusing their exploration efforts inside the Zambian borders. And of course, Rio Tinto just took out 6,000 square kilometers, both in conjunction with the Zambian government, working together to outline new areas. So this is a super exciting scenario that's unfolding, and we're right in the middle of it. Everything you see surrounded in green is Midnight Sun, our flagship project, Solwezi, and a brand new project we announced a few weeks ago called Luswishi, which I'll touch on very briefly. But essentially, we acquired Luswishi. It's a very, very geologically data-rich project. There's been about $4 million in work done on it. We have all of those results and all of that data. It is a project that's in our pipeline to work on, but right now we're focused on what you see in front of you, and that is Solwezi. So now we're zooming in on just the Zambian side of the border. This hatched line running across is the new Lobito corridor. That's a rail corridor that is being backed by the US government and, of course, majors such as Ivanhoe. And that rail line will connect every major mine in the Domes with a Western port. Of course, you'll see on here and on that last map, it runs right through the middle of our property. So that is certainly a bonus for anybody looking to acquire this. So we are right in the middle here. And what makes our property different from anybody else is how it's broken up. You'll notice it looks like a bit of a quilt here. We've got 4 different blocks. Each of those blocks is a target for one of these billion-ton systems. Because of the underlying basement domes, hence the Domes region, each of these major mines has 1 dome under it. Our property has 4. So because we have multiple domes, we have multiple systems, and therefore we have multiple opportunities to explore different systems, each with that same overall possibility for a discovery. On top of that, we have 2 areas here, Kaziba and Me Too, in the northwest and southwest corners of our property. Those areas have oxide copper, and that's where we're working with First Quantum to hopefully deliver material to the Kansanshi mine. So I'm going to blast forward here through a couple of things, but I want you to hang on to these 3 items. Remember, billion-ton deposits, the fact that they're high grade, 0.56 is the average, and they are very shallow. These are stratabound deposits. So you're looking at something that is flat lying and basically less than 150 meters from surface. So these are not the porphyry deposits you hear about all the time that come with a $5 to $10 billion capex. These are shallow, these are giant, and they are high grade. So this is an area where if you find it, you're going to be able to build it, and that's the key. So looking at this, we have 3 systems I'm going to talk about here. Dumbwa, which is our flagship target on the southwest corner of our property, Kaziba, which is in the northwest corner of our property, and Me Too, which is in the southwest corner. Each of those already have major discoveries, and I'll show you how we're pushing them ahead. But before I do, I want to cover one part of our story briefly, but it's a background that you need to understand and really gives you the ultimate stamp of approval for what we're doing and why we're out there doing it. So Lumwana, which of course is Barrick's flagship project, sits 20 kilometers to the west of us. And the history of Barrick's Lumwana mine is this. It was purchased from Equinox 20 years ago for $7.3 billion. That acquisition was very extreme 20 years ago. It's extreme even by today's standards. But Barrick paid $7.3 billion for this. And when they did, it was only an 800 or 900 million ton deposit. They worked on it for 15 years. They weren't able to get this thing to work. It didn't have continuity. They had some uranium contamination. They were struggling with this asset. And 5 years ago, or 4 years ago, I should say, they decided to bring in an expert to solve that issue. And that expert was a PhD geologist named Kevin Bonnell. Kevin had more deposits to his credit than anybody else in the belt. And they brought Kevin in with an express mandate. And that mandate was this: turn our system into a tier 1. We don't want a tier 2. We want a tier 1. We need at least 5 million pounds of contained copper, or 5 million tons of contained copper. We need to move this ahead. So Kevin came in, he took a look at it, he built a team, they put together a strategy, and in 24 months, which in our world is extremely fast, Kevin delivered 1.62 billion tons of ore, 62 years of mine life, and almost 9 million tons of contained copper. He gave Barrick the tier 1 asset they were looking for. He gave them a project that's going into production on the basis of a brand new super pit. The feasibility study alone is $150 million. That's underway now. And following that, the key part of the story is this. Kevin wrote a report to Mark Bristow, to Barrick's management, and said, look, if you believe in what we just did at Lumwana, there's another asset you need to look at. It's called Dumbwa, and it's owned by Midnight Sun. And that brought them to the table. Now, we did not end up putting a deal together with Barrick. What we did do is we brought in Kevin Bonnell. So Kevin actually left his job at Barrick. He joined Midnight Sun shortly after. And his thesis is that Dumbwa, the target I'm about to show you, is as big or bigger and higher grade than Lumwana. And I'll show you why. So this is Kevin's phased approach. If you look at the way Kevin approached this versus the way that historically people approach these large copper systems, he took one step that no one else did, and it's that central step there, phase 2, dipole-dipole IP. It is absolutely critical in defining these structures around the large geochem anomalies that typically define them and getting them to a point where you can drill them systematically without wasting money, wasting holes, being methodical and cost effective. And so this was the methodology that Kevin used at Lumwana that took them in 24 months to a tier 1 asset. We're following the exact same approach. First, you're looking for a large geochem anomaly at surface, which we certainly have at our properties. Then we're looking for that dipole-dipole AP confirmation of the mineralization and the correlation between the geochem and the IP results. And number 3 is to get out there and drill these systematically top to bottom. So Dumbwa, Kaziba, and Mitu, 3 big sulfide targets. Here we go. I'll show you what they look like. This is Dumbwa, and this is our flagship. So what you're looking at on the right-hand side here, this large purple blob, that is a 20-kilometer long soil anomaly that runs up to 0.73% copper. Now, you remember I mentioned 0.56 as an average of the mines in the region. This is 0.73 in soil at surface. So that is certainly a jarring first sort of pass at what might be lying below. Now, if you look at that on a larger scale, we see 20 kilometers of strike length, and correlating that, we see something called a vegetation kill zone. And that is something that's typical in most of the big deposits in the belt. And what it means is when there's a lot of copper in soil, it becomes toxic to vegetation, and you'll see that trees, grass, plants can't grow there. So you end up with these large areas that are barren, and that's exactly what we have at Dumbwa. So this is the largest and highest grade soil anomaly on record in Zambia to date. And over top of that, we have these large kill zones that are very, very obvious. You can see them on Google Earth. And then to correlate the sulfides, we've got lots of drill results. Every one of these intercepts is economic, and they're showing you some pretty key things. Give you 2 quick examples. SDDD06, 13.5 meters of 0.77. That starts right at surface in sulfides in bedrock. So what that means is this system isn't just shallow, it actually daylights. It comes right to surface. And also, if you look at SDDD03B, 11 meters of 0.5 and 33 of 0.44. That means we have multiple layers in this system. That's something they had at Lumwana, and it adds to the Dumbwa and Lumwana analog that we're working on here. So jumping forward, one last thing here. Best hole was drilled just off the south tip of the anomaly on our property, and that was actually 15 meters of around 5% copper. It was drilled by a major a couple years ago, kind of lit the area up and got everybody excited. So if you look at this, and of course this deck will go out afterwards, but everybody can take a look at it on our website if you like. What I'm trying to show you here is just simply that if you take a list, a checklist, if you will, of each of the key criteria and characteristics of one of these major systems, in this case, Lumwana, put Dumbwa beside it, it is identical on every single level. There's no difference. The belt itself, typically the copper is held outside of the basement domes, but there's 2 big systems that are in the basement domes, and they are Lumwana and Kamoa-Kakula. In our case, there's a third, and it's Dumbwa. but it's the only one of the three that has not been drilled off yet. So we're taking Kevin's approach, and here it is. We just put these out a couple of weeks ago. This is the IP survey, the dipole-dipole IP survey. You'll notice 56 line kilometers, these black lines over here. This yellow circle is the area that we've just completed and announced. It's the southern 60, relatively around 60%. It's about 11.5 kilometers of strike length. We've still got another 7 or 8 kilometers to go. And what did we get from that IP survey? We got confirmation. This is the high chargeability and low resistivity. And what this is showing you is 11.5 kilometers of mineralization. This is what Dumbwa looks like. And it's the very first time that we have a clear, cohesive picture of the mineralization connecting that geochem at surface. And now we have a roadmap to systematically drill off this system. So what we see here is a couple of things that surprised us. Number one, the depth. We've got this down to 300 meters. The geometry of this is extraordinary. 11.5 kilometers long, 300 meters deep. The other thing that we have from that IP survey is there are a number of east-west faults that explain historic drilling on hits, historic drilling on misses. And that's just as important as the individual drill results themselves. We need to understand the system. We need to understand the shape, the size, and the geometry. And this gives us the data we were missing. So we can see the dip direction. We now know what angle it's sitting at. We can see where there's folding. We can see where there's pinching and swelling. And we have a good, solid, cohesive picture. So we are very, very quickly going to start drilling at Dumbwa. We're kicking off a large-scale program that is going to explore this entire 11.5 kilometers. And shortly thereafter, we'll complete the rest of the IP survey and do follow-up drilling over it. So this is the start of actually going out and systematically proving out this incredible geochem anomaly that makes up our Tier 1 target. So there's two other areas that we're working on sulfides. I'm going to cover them very, very quickly for you. Kaziba is number one. This is a 4 by 2 kilometer sulfide target. We just drilled 4 holes and assays are pending. It looks basically like this. We drilled 4 holes up here. The plan is to drill 8. We're going to wait till the assays come in, and there's a reason why. Rather than sitting here and waiting for 8 weeks, we moved that drill rig down to Dumbwa so that we can kick off with 2 drill rigs at Dumbwa, which is going to be much, much better. And then we have Me2. Me2 is the southwest corner of our property, and we drilled 2 areas down here. Historically, we have 11.5 meters of 3.5% copper and 11.5 meters of 1.5% copper, both fantastic intercepts. We know that those sit below a large oxide blanket. So we've done exactly what Kevin prescribed. We've gone back and started at square one, sampling first. Let's get the geochem ironed out. And we took somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000 samples over that area. Those are awaiting assay right now. Once we get those back, that'll dictate follow-up dipole-dipole IP, and then we go and drill in 2026. So there's the plan for Dumbwa, Kaziba, and Me2, 3 major targets for one of these sulfide discoveries. And taking that a step further, this is the oxide copper plan that we have underway. And this really is the piece that differentiates Midnight Sun from almost any junior out there, is that we have large-scale exploration upside mixed with the tangibility of actually having a near-term production scenario in our hands that we're trying to move forward on. So this could be a very, very exciting situation for us. And I'll explain very quickly how it works. First Quantum's Kansanshi mine is 6 kilometers to the east of us. You'll see their haul road running right through our property here. And this, of course, is Kaziba. So this is the area we've been working on oxides. Kansanshi has 3 circuits. They have a sulfide circuit, a mixed ore circuit, and an SXEW oxide copper circuit. That's a circuit that is specific to this oxide copper. And it's because the metallurgy is different, so you need to approach it differently. They also have a smelter on site, and their smelter is one of the most efficient on the planet. So the smelter throws off about 1.5 million tons of sulfuric acid a year as a byproduct, and that needs to be neutralized. You are not allowed to ship that out of country. You can't truck it. You need to come up with a way to deal with it in situ. So First Quantum was brilliant. They decided to heap leach copper oxides, which are rich in malachite, and the malachite neutralizes the acid. So they end up with water as a byproduct from that process and cathode copper. Cathode copper is what is left behind from the oxides. They sell that product and they make about 400 million a year in that process. So this is the economic engine of the Kansanshi mine. Now, that has been the case for about 20 years. Kansanshi's been working that way beautifully, but they are getting very low on oxides now, if not depleted. So we're working together. We have this plan in place. It is non-binding. This is a cooperative exploration plan. So essentially a strong technical alliance where we know we have oxides, they know we have oxides, they need oxides, we want to have a mining deal. So we're working together. They've given us an engineering team. They're helping us with assays and metallurgy at the mine, at their lab, and expediting this entire process, which is a really unique position to be in. So as we move forward, it's our responsibility to do the drilling. So we did our first round of drilling. This is what we came up with. 21 meters of 10.69% copper, 26 meters of 5.6% copper, 15 meters of 3% copper, 7 meters of 4.6. Feel free to read the rest of those numbers. This stuff is spectacular. It's high grade and it is right at surface. So this is now defined as what we call an oxidized blanket or a mobilized blanket of oxides. It's oxide material that was mobilized most likely by drainage, settled in big pockets, and it has turned out to be both much higher grade and much larger than we expected. So the area that I just flagged those results from is this pink blob up here on this graphic I'm showing you. The area that we did that work was based on about 39 drill holes. Those 39 drill holes look roughly like this. We ended up with a fairly large high-grade area here, and we've now drilled out the initial constraints and realized that we've only drilled about 40% of the target area. So we've just launched a new drill program. It is underway as we speak, and this is going to be about 160 holes to define the extents of this oxide blanket, after which we are going to publish a 43-101 compliant maiden resource. The goal then will be to get a deal together with First Quantum and move this towards the production stage. If we do, that could mean very significant near-term cash flow for Midnight Sun and solving First Quantum's issues for a very long time. The other thing that we found in our partial ionic leach survey, which is the initial graphic I was showing you here, are these 4 new areas of oxides. So we're going to test those with some additional partial ionic leach and then a follow-up drill program that will follow the 160 holes we're doing here. These are vertical RC holes, so very quick and very, very fast and easy and cheap to do. So we're going to get through those very quickly. Give you a quick snapshot on the company here before I hand the reins back to Jimmy. Looking at Midnight Sun today, we're at about $100 to $112 million market cap. Our peak this year was $151 million. If you look back to the start of this process, we were about a $27 million company. So we've come a long way. We're a TSX top 50 company. Our trajectory this year has been incredible, 20 cents to 91. We raised 10 million. We just brought in another 2.25 through warrants. So we're sitting on about 12 million, 11.5 to 12 million. And we brought in about 22 or so percent, 20% we'll call it, of institutional holders. So we've really built this out and built an ultimate platform now to unleash this big exploration program on all fronts and really kick this into high gear. So with that, Jimmy, questions?
Very good. Very good. I know it's a lot to pack in.
It is.
So first question is the one that's posted here. Any impact from Trump's tariffs? Very general, broad.
Impact on our share price. I think it impacted just about every junior on, certainly on my screen. Every copper company out there from major to junior got hammered when those came out. But at the end of the day, does it have a large impact on our project? Not really. The fundamentals haven't changed, and that's what people need to keep in mind. This is an area that is literally the top spot for people to be looking for large copper systems. It is the area that is most likely to be a new supply region. There are just no copper projects in the pipeline coming on stream, and certainly none that have good economics or that are comparable to the projects in this region. So the big picture for us, does the copper deficit go away? Not a chance. Does the copper price hold up? I absolutely believe it will. And are we in the right spot to be able to be a part of that? We absolutely are.
The next question is about KPIs that the majors might be looking for to maybe have a real M&A event.
That's a really good question. Now, going back to that very first map that I showed, and I'll actually just bring it up on the screen because it helps people to kind of visualize. If you're looking at First Quantum, you're looking at Ivanhoe, you're looking at Anglo and Barrick and the other companies that are in this region. There is only 4 companies on the screen right now that actually have a producing mine in the region. And they are First Quantum, Barrick, Ivanhoe, and China Molybdenum. But I mentioned Glencore, Anglo American, BHP, all of those companies are in the area sniffing around. They're all interested. They're all looking for something that could go into production. And certainly Ivanhoe only has exploration ground. They do not have a production level asset right now. So if you think about it this way, do you want to go out into a new area and look for something completely grassroots if you're a major? Or if a company comes out with something really outstanding in exactly the right spot, close to a major, we know 1 billion tons is the cutoff for companies like BHP. That's typically what they're looking for. They want that critical scale. If you look at Dumbwa as an example, our target there is 1 billion+ tons. It's the kind of system that could host that type of deposit. And when you're looking at what those companies want and what they're out there looking for, it's exactly that. Development stage projects that show that they have the goods, they're going to have the size and scale that they want, and it's a turnkey opportunity for them to come into this region and open a new mine or supply feed to one of the nearby mines. So, in terms of what are you looking for, you want to be in the right place, you want to be in the right kind of size and scale, and you want to have multiple opportunities, and we cover that in spades. So if you're looking at this region from an M&A perspective, this is a perfect storm. The whole region is a perfect storm. But the only company that's moving from early discovery into development right now is Midnight Sun. So as we march forward and drill these assets, we're moving from that early stage discovery into building these out and showing how big they can be, and hopefully hitting those numbers and that critical scale that these companies need in order to want to make an acquisition. And make no mistake, that is our goal. We're not a mining company on our own, so the goal is to get this to the point where we can sell it.
We are out of time, so I'll thank you, Adrian, for gracing us with your presence again. I know you're very busy. You're heading back to Zambia very shortly. I'll just kick it back over to you for about maybe 15, 20 seconds. How can people reach you if they're interested? And yeah, investor relations, all that.
Yeah, absolutely. This deck will be available on our website, actually a more fulsome version of it with more data. So you can go to our website, midnightsunmining.com, and grab that. You can drop me a line at Adrian, Adrian, at midnightsunmining.com anytime you like. I'll be more than happy to respond to any questions. Or you can pick up the phone and give me a call, 604-809-6890. And happy to take the calls and happy to talk to anybody anytime about what we're doing. One morning, I'm on the road the next couple of weeks, so it's going to be a little trickier with the time zone in Africa. But other than that, please feel free. We're always happy to respond directly.
Very good. Thank you again.
You bet. Thanks, Jimmy.